Welcome to my next 100 Season 1 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you haven't watched the first 7 episodes of the 100 Season 1, then it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen this show all the way through one time. I really like it. It's in my top 20 of all time, so I wanted to rewatch it and let it resonate and do reviews for all of you. So join me on the journey and let's discuss this awesome, amazing show in the comments section. With that said, this will be the 100 Season 1, Episode 7. The title of this episode is called Contents Under Pressure. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start with the camp, and they're kind of preparing for a hurricane while Raven tries to get through on the radio to the Ark, and Clark is tending to a severely injured Finn. Abby is before the council and is told that even though she had broken laws and should be floated, they need her medical expertise too badly, so she's received a stay of execution. However, she is being stripped of her council position immediately. Then, suddenly, they hear Raven calling over the Ark-wide channel, asking for help from the ground. Sinclair boosts the signal, and Abby is able to talk to Clark for the first time. Clark asks for help with Finn and tells Jaha that Wells didn't make it. Sinclair patches Clark through to medical so Abby and Jackson can help Clark with Finn's stab wound. The storm, however, temporarily disrupts the communications. Octavia returns to the dropship with Monty's moonshine to help disinfect Finn's injury. Bellamy, Miller, and Drew return carrying the unconscious grounder Lincoln, who had saved Octavia's life and stabbed Finn into the dropship. Bellamy tells them to tie him up on the third floor while they send the rest of the delinquents, or the 100, to the second floor to give Clark room to work on Finn. Abby gets back on the radio and Clark describes Finn's injury to her. Octavia has followed Bellamy up to the third floor where he's tied up Lincoln. She tells Bellamy that Lincoln saved her. She doesn't know his name yet, and he doesn't have to hurt him. Bellamy makes her leave. And then back on the Ark, former Chancellor Diana Sidney approaches Chancellor Jaha and tells him that workers are getting disgruntled after the cooling, especially now that they know the ground is survivable. She wants Jaha to know she is on his side. Abby guides Clark through removing the blade from Finn's side. As Clark is doing so, the storm gets worse and debris hits the dropship, knocking everyone down, including Clark and Finn. Luckily, the blade was removed without doing further damage. Bellamy beats Lincoln, trying to get information about the other grounders. And then Lincoln's bag is looked through, and a collection of vials and a journal are found. The journal shows he's been spying on the 100 and has taken a particular fancy to Octavia, much to Bellamy's displeasure. Clark finishes stitching up Finn's wound and realizes he is feverish. Abby wants to talk with Clark, but Clark leaves to the third level. Bellamy asks how Finn is doing and shows Clark the journal, telling her they're fighting a war. Raven calls up to Clark that Finn has started seizing, so Clark rushes back down to him. Marcus Kane visits with his mother, Vera Kane, at the memorial for the victims of the cooling. He is confronted by Kyler Ridley, whose wife died in the cooling and is shoved down. Jaha interrupts and puts a halt to it, calling for a general assembly of the station representatives to give the Sky People the truth. Jaha then sends everyone away before telling Kane to pull himself together. Clark is able to stop Finn from seizing and quickly realizes that the blade Finn was stabbed with had been poisoned. She heads back up to the third floor with Octavia following her. Bellamy remembers the vitals and they ask Lincoln to tell them which one has the antidote, but he doesn't speak. Bellamy tells Clark she doesn't have to be there while he torches Lincoln to find the antidote, but Clark stays. Octavia begs him to stop, telling him that Lincoln saved her life. Even though Finn was dying downstairs, Bellamy brutally tortures Lincoln, whipping him with a seatbelt, yet the Lincoln still will not speak. Chancellor Jaha speaks at the General Assembly, telling all the station representatives that Earth is survivable and they now have time to get everyone to the ground. Ridley questions Jaha, asking if he's finally telling the truth, and gets angry at him about the death of his wife, and Jaha tells them how he lost his son. Diana Sidney comes up to him to apologize and then speaks to the General Assembly, telling them that because of the sacrifice of their loved ones, their children will now be able to go to the ground. And Ridley says they can't trust the council, so Jaha gives Sidney Abby's old council spot, old position, so she can foster trust. Bellamy and Clark escalate the torture of Lincoln, with Bellamy putting a spike through his hand. Raven comes into the room after Finn almost dies again and begins to electrocute Lincoln, causing him to scream in agony. Octavia puts a stop to it by slicing herself with the knife that Lincoln used on Finn, saying that Lincoln wouldn't let her die. And then Lincoln finally helps Octavia find the correct antidote to save her and, of course, Finn. Clark gives the antidote to Finn and sends Raven out for water. Abby comes on the radio and Clark tells her she knows about her mother's involvement with her father's death. Marcus Kane is at the last tree giving it some of the daily water ration. His mother enters and he breaks down, telling her that he doesn't even know who he is anymore. She tells him he is her son and that God will forgive him, but he needs to also forgive himself, and she gives him a hug. Clark tries to clean Lincoln's wounds, but he sees Octavia enter the room and refuses to let Clark do so. Octavia walks over to help, and he allows her to clean up his wounds. Clark tells Octavia that they tortured him to save Finn. Octavia replies that Clark didn't even save Finn. Octavia did. And then Clark leaves, and Octavia apologizes to Lincoln for the thanks he got for saving his life. He then speaks for the first time, thanking Octavia for helping him. Miller asks if he heard the Grounder speak, and Octavia lies to him before Miller makes her leave. When Finn wakes up, Clark tells Finn that Raven needs him and calls Raven over to him. She leaves the dropship and sees the 100 cleaning up camp after the storm. Bellamy approaches her, taking the spike that had been in Lincoln's hand, and tells her who we are and who we need to be to survive are very different things, and that it is hard being in charge. And then we have Diana Sidney being sworn in as the council member on the Ark. And then Chancellor Jaha reveals that the problem with Project Exodus is that there are 2,237 people on the Ark, but they only have enough space for 700 people to get to Earth. And that's what ends this episode of The 100. So I like the episode. It was pretty good. I'll give it an 8.2 out of 10. My characters of the episode are going to be Octavia and Clark, although Raven did good. And, props to Lincoln for, giving the signal that was the antidote for the poison. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of The 100 and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash the like button. Otherwise, I'll send Raven after you, and Raven don't fuck around. Share the video with a friend. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are regarding this episode of The 100. What would you rate it, and who would you choose as a character of the episode? I picked 2. You can pick less. You can pick more. It's completely up to you. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100K subs. Yes, I know I set my goals pretty high. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.